viewers, right? Because like you're Matt's half the screen, Eric's the other half, Brandon's like you're like a quarter of it. I'm like a little tiny 2-inch thing.
Hey guys.
I don't see anybody but Brandon.
So like what you guys see, if you have the stream open, is not anything like what the stream actually looks like. So you're fine. Everyone can hear you fine. Your videos are fine.
Excellent.
Archer, how's it going, man? Great to see you in chat. Already we got people coming in, view us. We're Team Bad Decisions. We're 40k Age of Sigmar hobby team, focused on conversions and good play style and not hyper competitiveness. Oh yeah, look at all the paint. Yeah, thanks Tango. So they're commenting, Matt, on your paint background already.
Starting it up.
So this episode we're already talking about, or going to be talking about, Chaos Undecided. So we'll start out with Matt's going to touch base on some hobby concepts for the Chaos enthusiast, and then we'll bring it back with John on some 3 different Chaos factions today. We'll look at the Black Legion, the Night Lords, and then Eric will touch on the World Eaters. We'll do a little bit of a lore breakdown on, for the new people that are out there, what Chaos Space Marines even are in the 40k universe, and then move that forward into how to maximize your play style and maximize the models you have and their effectiveness. So you want us to kind of go around the circle? It'll me, then John, then Matt, then Eric, kind of the logical order of it. I'm Brandon, the little tech guy. I'll be making sure sound comes through okay. Please let me know if there's any issues. That's my job to fix it. And then John, you want to say a second about what you are, how you got in the team?
I'm John. I play Orcs and Chaos, and I don't like the Imperium, and I'm just a simple guy. I just like to play and paint.
Cool, Matt, you want to throw down why you're here? What's going on with you?
I'm Nurgle Matt. You might know me because I have Mark of Nurgle on my ring finger. I am all about the painting, and I'm all about keeping Nurgle and Death Guard relevant in any list I'm doing. And it's great fun, and it always works.
And Tango wants you to paint him like one of his French girls, so please get on that. Just like one of the French girls. Eric, how about you?
Whatever position you need to be in.
Bearded man.
I'm Eric. I'm one of the Team Bad Decisions, we would say, pro painters. I enjoy painting. I play Chaos primarily. I own a ton of Slanesh, ton of Khorne. Play Eldar, Dark Eldar, anything you can think of. I've had it, I've owned it, and I've played it.
Cool. So basically, if we're gonna jump into this first segment of Chaos Space Marines, it's going to be about painting and conversion, kind of like what our team is centered around. Matt, you've got about 3,000 different colors of paint going on behind you right now, and it seems like even you are yourself right now working on painting something. What are you painting?
Oh yeah, always be painting. So I picked up a Khorne COVID project. I now have a ton more Khorne than I did just a couple months ago, and I'm working on a bunch of demons. It's gonna be awesome.
So demons.
I have so many painting projects.
All Khorne demons as well.
This lot is. It's a newer part of my collection since I am usually exclusive. I'm excited to have some blood letter bonds and everything else that I can finally.
Excellent.
Nice.
Excellent.
Nice. Yeah, there's like a fan sound coming from you, Matt, I think.
Oh, that's probably it might be from me. Let me go shut that off. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. Don't worry about it.
Maybe we'll shut it up.
Well, like fans.
But
Well, it's actually. Maybe we'll shut it off real quick.
Okay, no problem.
I almost thought it was the tank from my airbrush, because that compressor is just constantly back pushing some PSI. Sometimes that's blowing. I don't even keep track of it.
No, all 4 of you are in or 4 of us are in an audio, like one audio stream, so it's kind of hard to pick out who's who. But when it comes to the basics of conversions and painting corn, since you're corn painting right now, what can you start from the beginning? Someone's just in the store, they want to pick up some corn models. What kind of colors are they going to look at? What from the basics all the way up to what you're doing right now? What should people have to think about and worry about?
I believe corn is some of the best Chaos Space Marine. I've been playing 40K for about 20 years, and when I first went into the store, corn berserkers were one of the first boxes I bought.
Sorry about that, gentlemen.
Quite all right. So with corn, you can never have too much red. And so when you're going at that paint rack, make sure you're getting all your shadows, but get some colors that complement it too. But I keep it very simple. I'm always getting my few basic. So I cover my main base coat of reds. I cover any metal trim that I need to do, and then some basing. And that can almost be a great start to that right there. So don't overcomplicate it. Step 1.
Okay. So say someone did start out in Chaos Corn. Walk them through. They've painted it red. They've got their metallics. They've got their red. What else? What can you do to make it unique? Because it seems like there's a decent amount of corn out there, or red armies out there, even in general. What can set your army apart?
A big thing that I want to encourage people to do is, of course, I want to get more people into Chaos. So I'm okay if some Gene Stealer purple makes it onto a Berserker with some shading that can go really well, or some Macrage blue for whatever you Ultramarine players are doing. Take that blue and put it on some Chaos models. And to make it more unique from only having to buy a few colors, make sure you pick up your blacks and your whites. So then you can really work on getting a few layers of colors. You can have that shadow built in starting from your light end spectrum all to the dark end spectrum. And that can really amplify your coloring.
Wait,
especially starting with dark shadows.
That's a great image. Can you explain what you did there on that wet palette? Assuming it's a wet palette.
So, love the wet palette. Army Painter, not yet an official sponsor, but we're going to keep talking to them. We'll keep joking about it until they do it. So, I tried to start up my painting pretty consistently. I have the same colors just going down the middle. This is our solid line of colors. And then on one end of the spectrum, I start with black and I smear some black. And on the other side, I start with white. So I don't need to own a lot of colors to get a lot of variety in my paint jobs. All I need is to shadow my models correctly, and then I can get a full spectrum of colors without having to own every single color in the line.
So Lugnag's already in chat thanking you because he's painting some corn right now, and this is perfect for him. And Warhammer with Yogi, from your experience, all four of you guys, how many green armies are there right now? So, like orcs are pretty green even over the whole faction line, but there's probably a green faction in every army. Like,
yeah,
Eldar have Bealtan.
Yeah. Easily.
No, Frosty, stay down. No
salamanders.
Ravenwing,
Dark Angels out of here.
Yeah, get the Dark Angels out of here. They're chaos. You should have been on the show.
Yeah. Necrons have some different greens on their different dynasties. They're not like full green, but you can see. Yeah, they have a lot of different dynasties that have different kinds of greens. Like a lighter, like Sotek, I think has a darker green, but then you have like a couple I think it's Mefrit or has like a lighter green on theirs.
Yeah.
So one thing I love about the color green, besides it being Nurgle's primary go-to, is that I also try to keep a color wheel handy. I don't look at it every day, but I try to pray to it because it helps. But green is a direct contrast or complement.
Go up a little bit,
reds.
Matt.
And so when you have your reds, and then you want to think of what colors are going to pop against red, you can always just go straight across the color wheel and start grabbing from those light lime greens. That can be really good for emerald highlights, eye highlights, or details, any decals that are on them.
So when would you not want to go against the color wheel? When do you want to stay away from that?
Man, forget the color wheel. The best part is just feel it out and shade as you go. Whatever feels natural. But I really enjoy those contrasts to make your models pop. When you think about how to make those reds go brighter, you can always start by adding even dark browns and blues to your reds to make them seem aged or scab red. Scab red was one of my favorite original paint colors. So then you have your aged red, and then you can amplify on top of that with your, Evil Sun's Scarlet Red or anything brighter than that to make it pop even more. Get your Blood Angels red in there and keep crossing over to Chaos. Stop painting Imperium.
So,
yeah.
Lugneck had a great painting question coming up for you. Any tips for coming up with a well-balanced color scheme? This may come with you, Eric, too. Feel free to chime in here. He wants to paint his blood letters in a different color scheme than a normal color scheme, but he doesn't want to draw too much attention towards a single feature. So,
it's always smart to unify your units with some things. I have only 40 blood letters in my collection. And of those 40, 10 of them are a very dark blue, 10 of them are a very dark red, and another 10 of them are a very hyper red. And I bring them all together by having the same color metals. Helps to unify the unit and to keep them popping individually, but still meshing together as one army.
Do you think basing will help? Like, even if you did do Skittles.
There's a lot of ways of doing it.
Oh, wait, go ahead, Eric. Sorry to cut you off.
So, like, that concept is great for identifying units as individuals, but when you start bringing them to a competitive level, as far as when you start bringing in painting competitions into it, everything's got to be uniform. So if you start having one blue, one green, one yellow, one purple, whatnot, it makes people draw from the whole concept of the army. So I prefer to do things in a smaller tone personally. So I own 270 blood letters. They are all painted exactly the same way, except for the swords are painted a little bit different. So I do a lot of the non-metal metals on there as far as like the lava colors. I just sway them a little bit. So and alternated at different directions and all that. And then people realize, oh, that unit's with that one. These are with that unit. It's easy for me to identify. I can tell my opponent, but it still looks uniform on my display board.
Yeah. Awesome. Can you touch real quick? Because you mentioned non-metallic metals, which is kind of a high-end concept in painting. What is that for newer painters?
Yeah. So it's using different shades of a specific color to make it look like it's a metallic color. So if you're doing, say, golds, you can use browns hued all the way up to yellows. If you're doing silvers, it's blacks, grays, and whites. There's different stuff for like magical effects as far as doing browns, yellows, reds, and oranges, and blues to blacks and all that. I mean, there's all sorts of different colors you can do to make it pop. So it's more, you can do it freehand. It's a heck of a lot easier doing it with an airbrush. But you can do some cool effects, and a lot of it turns into doing it with glazes.
Gotcha. Cool.
Do you guys think that, like, if you're, do you want the model to stand out more or your base to stand? Do you want to, like, minimize the base so your model stands out, or kind of, like, put more emphasis into your base to have them be attracted to the base than the model? Or is there a balance that you want to achieve that a person's not looking, like, at a base? Ooh, those are fantastic bases, but they take away from the model.
It's totally a balance as far as a competition level. So when you put down last year at the Michigan GT, I had 180 models. So I made sure that my board flowed as far as smaller models to larger models, but larger models in certain spaces. So that way you weren't losing the large model, as far as saying I've got all 8 of my big demon princes on one side and all my little dudes on another side. And so you have to spread things out to make people's eyes wander. So that's the whole thing, is people start either, it has a lot to do with photography, as far as looking from left to right or right to left. That's the way the human eyes work, and we pan objects. So when we start, we're looking at point A and we're going to point B. And everything needs to flow That way, eyes don't stop. That's the main thing, is you don't want eyes to stop.
A comment just came in from Yogi, and I'm going to try and paraphrase, but feel free to correct me if I missed something in it. He's got a lot of models all kind of clustered together. Archer, thank you for the subscription. But he's got a lot of models all clustered together, and he's having a hard time distinguishing which 5-man units are which. Is there a good way from a painting standpoint or a conversion, or how would you keep the unit cohesion over the whole army, but still be able to pick out that 5-man unit and that 5-man unit and that 5-man unit when you're castling or when you're doing something like that?
So, what I've done on certain situations, I used to have a Space Marine army with the Gladius Strike Force back in 7th edition, which was absolutely obnoxious. He's got all your vehicles free, and it was all about taking 5-man squads. The way I did that is all my bases were the same. I had black ring bases, and I would put a small color dot on the back side of the base, so when judges are looking, they can't see the dot. But when I'm putting models out, I can see the dots. And I tell my opponents, hey, this color's here. These guys are blue. These ones are green. Similar to what you're doing, but I'm not making it obvious.
Yeah.
You could also do that with like decals and transfers that come on sheets, squat, on shoulder pads.
That's huge too.
Yeah. I mean, my lazy point is that I could just play knights, but that's just me. When you only play 4 models, it's really hard to not keep track of them.
They're great.
Yeah.
I'll talk Chaos Knight soon.
So kind of in the same creative feel as painting, colors, and schemes. And if you guys have questions, keep throwing them out. We love having them. But from a conversion standpoint, where do you guys get your bits from for Chaos? And where do you go to look? What do you think is good to change? And what needs to stay the same in order to keep the feel of your Chaos army?
I'm a big fan of bits collecting, and to keep our models consistent, if I cannot find the model in 40K, I go to the Age of Sigmar line and I try to pull bits from there to help bring my pieces together. I can go to third parties, but sometimes the casting isn't the same or the scale isn't right. So trying to stay GW pure is optional, but it can be a lot of fun.
I think a lot of the Chaos thing, the Chaos Spawn kit from Games Workshop is a really fantastic kit. You only get 2 spawn models in it, but you get so many heads and tails and just appendages, and you get like 8 heads and tails, and you just get spiky parts, tails, kind of different 8s. And that, those can make your Chaos conversion a little bit just by adding a couple tails or a couple spikes or extra appendages in this Chaos spawn box. I've bought in like maybe 20 of those spawn boxes and just have shells of spawn bits that I put everywhere.
The Chaos and Imperium, both kinds of Space Marines. I know that we're not talking about Imperium. I find them hard to convert. I think demons are very easy to convert, but the Space Marine itself as a model is hard because GW pushes it so hard as their poster child, and everyone has an image in their head that's all the same of this is what a Space Marine is supposed to look like. So when you deviate too far from that imagery, people get the uncanny valley of, I don't know what that is and I don't like it. And do you guys, do you push past that? Do you not try and go that far? What's going on with that?
So I guess in my opinion, I agree as far as normal Space Marines are very, very hard to convert. As far as finding bits for them, because they're so generic. There's not a lot of whole detail to them. They're very uniposed. As far as everybody's got a bolter, everybody's got a plasma gun. It's just they're all holding the gun the same way. So it's hard to break that concept of them, especially when you're starting into the game originally. I think Chaos has a lot more flexibility with that, as far as having chainsword, bolt pistol, bolters, and having different poses. The new Chaos Space Marine box is amazing.
Yeah, it's
see, one of my biggest issues was how small the Chaos Space Marines are compared to Primaris Marines and all that, and I feel that your Cult Marines, the Plague Bearers, the Thousand Suns, the Berserkers, and Noise Marines all need to be bigger.
Thanks.
Now they're too small, they don't fit right, and I'm all about making things bigger. So when I'm specifically doing Khorne, seeing that that's what we're talking about, I use the Age of Sigmar line with the Blood Reavers and all that. I find them to be great models as far as able to convert up Berserkers or Space Marines, because they're larger. They all have arm sockets just like Berserkers do, and Berserker bits fit in them just fine, and you can't really tell the size difference of the arms. And the chainsword, chain axes are still there.
A few other ways I've done with my Berserkers is I've grabbed some orc axes, some orc bits. Their arms are really huge and meaty, but when I ran out of chain axes, some good orc choppas looked pretty neat on some Berserkers.
How'd you get around
the main thing to remember is that go for it, John.
How did you get around okay, so an orc hand has the claw. Did you file the claw? Because they have their hands have claws on the end of it versus a regular Chaos Space Marine doesn't. Did you just leave them on there and kind of made it, or did you kind of file them down, or did you just hide them so that way you didn't see the clawed fingertips, which would be not so bad for Berserker anyway.
Not bad at all. Yeah, some possessed fat arms, but I ended up cutting off the fist. I lost the orc fist and just kept the haft of the weapon, the shaft of it, and it worked.
No worse.
But green stuff too, even if you are starting out, green stuff is a lot of fun to just simply reposition a model. If you find that a whole box of a unit are all right-handers and you want to make someone with a left-handed, it's a lot of fun to just do simple swaps like that to amp up the units.
Nice. So, keeping on the Chaos Space Marine Undecided train, but moving more into lore of the background of it. John, do you want to touch base on kind of how we even got in 40K, how we got Chaos Space Marines?
Well, there was everybody. I don't know who's all know. Pretty much everybody, except for the maybe new people, know that there's the Emperor of Mankind. He's basically he created man.
Robo Jesus.
Robo Jesus, yeah, and I think most people who know Warhammer know about the Emperor. There are probably a few that are just getting into it that don't know. Well, he's the Emperor of Mankind. He's not like the Emperor of the Eldar. He's just the Emperor of man. He is basically Jesus, yes. So he couldn't be everywhere. So he created 20. He decided to do some cloning and some guy, mixing and stuff. So he made 20 progeny of himself, put his gene seed into him, and a giant warp storm happened, and 20 Primarchs got blasted all over to different places. So basically, for those of you who are a little bit know, Conrad Kurz was a Primarch, Robute Gilliman is a Primarch, Lionel Johnson, you have Sanguinus, Angron, Fulgrim, Mortarion, Magnus. All those guys were they were all good guys at one time. Some of them still are good guys. But so there was one that was named Horus, who was basically, he was kind of like he was the Emperor's favorite son. If he had to pick one, Horus was his favorite son. So Horus started to get a more, I wouldn't say angry. He got more full of himself, a little more narcissistic, and he kind of had visions of, he just wanted extreme power, jealous of his dad. So he he had visions of demons and running through his brain. So he decided, well, I'm just going to turn on my father and try to kill him. Unfortunately, there was a great crusade, and Horus failed to kill his father, and so the Sons of Horus, which were the Sons of Horus, which were the founding chapter that Horus did, they decided to. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I'm kind of like.
Oh, you're doing, man. Keep going.
They ran off, and so other legions, other Primarchs, Mortarion, Magnus, Cruz, Perturbo. Sorry for the mispronounce. They all got visions of chaos and wanted to seek a greater power, and it's kind of like chaos influencing, whispering in their heads. So a bunch of legions basically decided to turn against the Emperor, and that's how the Chaos Space Marines in general were founded.
Nice. And you would say that, like, the first one that we're talking about, the Black Legion, they're Horus's Legion, and they're like the poster children of Chaos Space Marines, right?
They are. The original founding was called the Luna Wolves. But then after the Emperor, after Horus did some good deeds for the Emperor, he named them the Sons of Horus. So after Horus died, his first captain, Abaddon, some people call him Abaddon, Abdomen. I've heard him. Everybody calls him what he is. He carried Horus's body away. And became now the next War Master. And he wanted to get rid of anything named not Horus. He didn't want anything to do with Horus anymore because he was dead. So all of their Space Marines painted their armor black in shame, and took off their Imperial logo and put the Eye of Horus on their armor. So the Black Legion is the first founding chapter. There's more. They're the biggest of the Chaos Legions. They have the most bodies, and they've been around the longest of all of the legions. So,
and what makes them special compared to the other ones? Like, they're Chaos Undivided, right?
They do worship all four. Unlike your World Eaters, Death Guard, they worship all of them. They have war bands that are dedicated to each one of the specific gods. There's the Hounds of Abaddon, which are dedicated to Khorne. They have the Sons of the Cyclops, which are dedicated to Tzeentch. They have the Children of Torment, which are dedicated to Slaanesh. They are all still Black Legion, but they have thousands of war bands, some dedicated to one god, some dedicated to all four Chaos gods, and some dedicated to just being we don't feel like following a Chaos god today.
Okay, so say you're just getting into Chaos Space Marines, and you pick up, like, these guys are good, they're a good starting point. How would you build a Black Legion army? What would you look at? What kind of stratagems do they have that are cool? What's kind of a build around?
Well, their Legion trait is they get +1 leadership, so they're kind of like the Ultramarines they're kind of like the Ultramarines, and they really benefit a lot from just regular straight Chaos Space Marines. So you want to pick up as many Chaos Space Marines as you can, give them the bolt guns. Some you might want to make melee, because if you want to feel like the Black Legion themselves deal more in melee. They say they always, in all the fluff, they're always more into melee than they are into ranged. They prefer melee versus ranged. And the Hounds of Abaddon are always Khorne marked and always forego their shooting for melee. So pick up your box of 10 Chaos Space Marines, and that's a really good starting point. Everybody knows that the Chaos have cultists, which are not full. They are just followers of the Chaos. They want to be Chaos Space Marines, but they're not. They're just there to worship them. And cultists are always good, but you know what? If you're starting off a Black Legion army, you want to take your regular Chaos Space Marines because they get the most benefit from your Legion. And they have the gold on black is a really good color scheme for those guys. It's simple, that you can easily paint, a gold armor and shade it really quick and put some gold trim around there, and you're really an easy army to ready to paint to go. They benefit the best with rapid fire weapons, so you want to keep your bolt guns, your plasma guns. because they can advance, which means they can roll an extra d6 in the movement phase, and they can still shoot their rapid-fire weapons as assault weapons. So that gives you a better range on your bolters. So you get, instead of not getting a shot in that turn, you can still get a shot in that turn with your plasma guns and your bolt guns.
You still take the -1 from advancing and firing, though, right?
Yeah, they don't get the cool thing where they don't suffer the penalty. They still take it. Yeah. But it allows you to, for those of you that want to maybe dedicate to Tzeentch, your Sons of Cyclops Black Legion, which I like to have. This means now your Infernal Bolt guns become Assault 1 instead of Rapid Fire 1, so now you get those -2 AP bolters and still get to shoot with them.
Interesting. Is there any... go ahead.
And then, of course, you can't start a Black Legion army without a Baden. Can't start the Black Legion army without him, because he's your chapter master of the Black Legion. He grants you... I couldn't see a Black Legion army not taking him, but there are builds that don't take him. And he just gives the benefit of the full rerolls to your army. He gives you the sweet command points, and he basically makes your entire army fearless within 12 inches. So basically you can walk legions of Chaos Space Marines around, shooting all your bolt guns, and never have to worry about any of your Chaos Space Marines ever just running away from anything.
Yeah, the Frosty just put in full rerolls to himself. Does he provide command points?
Yes, if you make him your warlord, he does get you 2 free command points. He also halves damage, so like your 6 damage last cannon becomes 3. The biggest thing that he grants is he has all 4 marks of chaos. So he is Khorne, Slaanesh, Nurgle, and Tzeentch, which means you can buff him with certain spells in the game. For example, you can do Miasma of Pestilence for those of you, I don't know if they can see that or not, but it does give them a -1 to hit in melee and shooting. You can give him Delightful Agonies. So Abaddon can also have a 5-up Feel No Pain, and then you can also cast Weaver Fates on him for a 3-up Invulnerable save. And we all know how good 3-up Invulnerable saves are in the game. They're
real nice.
So there is one thing. I don't know how you guys, in the wording of the game, you could get him down to a 2+ Invulnerable save for 1 round. But there's a way. So there's a stratagem called Chaos Boon, which basically means when your Abaddon would kill a character or vehicle, you can roll on a chart, and there's one that says adds 1 to saving throws. So it doesn't say armor or invulnerable saves, but if you already had Weaver Fates on him, which only can go down to a 3+, and then if you happen to roll on that chart and got the add 1 to saving throws, would that go down to a 2+ just for that round? I don't know.
That's kind of a judge question. Let's 3 years ago when they had lakes. Go ahead, Eric.
That was actually FAQ'd because people were doing that with the horrors and all that too. Because there's a spell in there that gives +1 to saving throws. It still has a cap. So if it says there's a cap at a 3+, that's the cap.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Couldn't tell you what book it's in. I don't remember. It's in one of the Chaos FAQs.
Okay. Well, that's good enough to know. But he is basically your guy. There's also a couple. One of Chaos Space Marines' problems in the game is command point recycling. We all know that all of us who have Imperium armies, Eldar armies, Tau armies, even Necrons can recycle command points. Chaos Space Marines, other than the Thousand Suns, don't know how to recycle command points. And getting that 1 free command point back can make the difference of a reroll, make the difference of being able to put something, it makes a huge difference. So the Black Legion have a specific stratagem in Vigilus Ablaze called the Council of Traitors. And you get to give a warlord trait to a Dark Apostle and a sorcerer in your army, which is but there is a caveat. You have to have your army led by a Chaos Lord, Demon Prince, or Abaddon himself. So it does give you, and why wouldn't you have Abaddon be your warlord anyways? But there is a warlord trait allows you to get basically the Ultramarines command point farm. So every CP you spend, you roll a dice on a 5+, could get one back. But we've normally capped at 1. So that's a really nice way for a Black Legion player to get your command points back. And then go ahead.
What are you going to be spending them on? Like, what's the best command point dumps in a Black Legion army?
Well, there's a Let the Galaxy Burn, which gives you a reroll 1s. But if you're going to build your list around Chaos Space Marines, there's a stratagem that allows you to reroll hit rolls if you are a Chaos Space Marine unit. So even if you're outside of Aura, a bubble reroll, you can spend 1 CP and get full rerolls for any Chaos Space Marine unit, or just 1s if you're not a Chaos, if you're just an infantry or a biker unit. Very solid stratagem. There's a 1 CP strat for you get to reroll hit rolls for any unit that is the closest unit in the shooting phase. So basically you could take, if you want to take some Havocs with Reaper chain cannons and roll all 32 hits and you're outside of reroll range, you can reroll it for only on the first shooting phase against the closest target that you want to shoot at. And there's also one where you can also make one for marking a particular unit all 4 marks of chaos if you want to buff them up to give them basically Abaddon status of all of the chosen.
All right, cool, interesting. A question came in from chat. I'd like to get it in there. They want to play, or they're thinking about playing, or they are playing Renegades, but their Renegades are not other than the 7th edition, I'm going to take 10 million mortars and mortar you into the ground. In 8th edition, they've been kind of silent. How could you make Renegades good?
Well, there is in the Vigilus Ablaze book, there is warlord traits and stratagems for renegade chapters. There is 6 renegade chapters. One of them is the most common one is the Red Corsairs, which allows you to advance in all units that get the Legion trait, advance and charge, which makes it so now your Chaos Space Marines can move faster, and then you also get bonus command points for if you take 3 units of Chaos Space Marines in your battalion, you get 8 command points instead of the normal 5. So there's a really Red Corsairs, and then there's also the Flawless Host, which is a really good one there. Slanesh, everything has to be marked Slanesh in that thing, but they're also really
the Michigan GT with.
Yeah.
So
that's what I won the Michigan GT with. Was Flawless Host.
Oh,
awesome.
Thanks, Frosty, gifting 5 tier 1 subs to Blue Sky 22, Laughing Jester, Nick Bowers, Traps Lord Sosa, Lugnag. Awesome. Thanks, Frost. You're the man. Sorry, but continue. Eric, you won with some Renegades. What was that list?
Yeah, it was a Soulforge pack of 3 Lord Discordants. It had 2 Flawless Host Demon Princes, 3 squads of Cultists, and then I branched into Chaos Demons with a Slanesh battalion of. We had a Contorted Epitome or Epitome, whichever you prefer to call it. Celeste and the Mask, and then it had 2 squads of 30 Demonettes and a squad of 20.
Nice. And did you use any of the Renegade stratagems? Like, was that any of the key to that winning?
Oh, yeah. That 90% of it was the Flawless Host. They have a Warlord trait that gives, so the Flawless Host special ability of their Legion trait is on every 6+ you roll, you get an extra attack. They also give buffs to that as far as like the Lord Discordants give an extra +1 to hit roll. So they're going off on a 4-up. You can prescience them to give off on a. Basically, you can get extra attacks on a 4+ depending on which characters you put it on. There's ways also to get it to a 3-up with the Mask. And if you're using the Flawless Host Warlord trait, it's instead of 1 additional attack that you get 3 additional attacks.
Nice.
So, and that also procs in with Death to the False Emperor, which is the Chaos Legion trait of +1 attack as well. So for every 6 you roll, you're theoretically getting 2 extra attacks. You end up getting these super huge lawnmowers. I think it was statistically, if you put it on a Disco Lord and he got in the first round without taking any wounds, he was getting 42 attacks before 2 wound rolls were made. So it was gross.
That's insane.
So he would walk up and just lawnmower over any unit that was in his way.
So, speaking of Disco Lords and fast-moving Chaos armies, the second one, John, I think we were going to touch base on was the Night Lords.
I thought. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, take it away. If you had any information on to share some Night Lord gameplay.
Alright. So the Night Lords, led by Conrad Cruz, he was their Primarch. They are more of a strike from the shadows compared to, like, if I were to compare them to an Imperium, you'd probably call them Raven Guard, because they like to sneak in and just basically harass your back lines and demoralize you. Their armor's dark blue with some nice lightning bolt streaks. So yes, from Matt has a nice that actually is a great starting color for those of you that want to start a Night Lord's army. They're a Legion trait, although it's very underwhelming, which it is basically means anybody within 6 inches of you suffers a -1 leadership, and that stacks up to 3 times. So if you have 3 different units, your leadership goes down on -3. Leadership doesn't really play a big factor in some armies. It does for some. It doesn't for other ones, because leadership just doesn't seem to, like, if you're playing against Necrons, it's very hard because they're all leadership 10 and very hard to make those guys run away. There is a very unique detachment in the Vigilus book, which is called the Host Raptorial, which kind of fits how the Night Lords operate. They operate from the strike from the skies. They do that, and it's on, for those of you that want to go pick up the Vigilus of Blaze book, it is on page 185, and this allows anything with the jump pack keyword, so that in Chaos Space Marines, the only thing you get with jump packs are your Lords, your Sorcerers, your Raptors, hence the name Host Raptorial, and Warp Talons. Those are your only armies that can really have your jump packs. So what this does is it allows you to deep strike as you normally. Basically, when you come in reserve, you got to be more than 9 inches away. But there is a Warlord trait that with any character allows you to add 2 to your charge rolls. So now you're only needing a 7-inch charge to get into the melee. However, the Night Lords have a specific stratagem for 1 command point called Raptor Strike, which allows a Night Lord's jump pack unit to charge 3d6. So now you're getting a 3d6 plus 2 charge, which almost guarantees you to get that unit that you want to into melee. And for those of you who don't know about Warp Talons, when they come up from Deep Strike, there's no Overwatch when they Deep Strike. So those Tau set players that are Overwatching on 5s, or those Iron Hand players, which Overwatch on 5s, there's going to be no Overwatch at all from any time Night Lord's Warp Talon comes in from that.
Yeah, it's any Warp Talon. Yeah,
sorry, any Warp Talon. But I'm sorry for that. But with the Raptor Strike, you're almost guaranteed to get those guys in at a 3d6 plus 2 to your charge. That's almost guaranteed money that you can get in. And then you can topple that on to a stratagem called From the Night. So if you put your Night Lord's infantry unit on a piece of terrain, you can add an additional plus 2 to that charge roll. So basically you get a 3d6 plus 4 to your charge. And the best part about it is you can add 1 to the hit rolls. But the best thing about the Night Lords is they probably have one of the best stratagems in the game called Vox Scream for 2 command points. Any unit within 18 inches, you can shut down an aura ability. You can shut down anybody's aura within 18 inches. It doesn't matter if it comes from a cultist unit, a chaos spawn, a sorcerer, a helldrake. And shutting down auras in 8th edition is money because you can shut down Gilliman, you can shut down Ironfather Pharaohs, you can shut down Eldrad, you could shut down Belisarius Call. Any sort of auras, you can just turn them off. You can just turn those off. Yeah.
Yeah, especially with Rabute Gilliman, reroll all hits and wounds. You just basically those repulsors are significantly less effective for a turn.
Exactly. So that is really probably one of the best stratagems in the game now. Of course, then if you play against the Dark Eldar army, then they'll Vect the Vox Scream, and then you're just like, oh.
That's fine. Let them spend their 5 CP on that.
Yep.
Or it was brought up to Auspex Scan in the chat. Maybe a little hurtful.
That's the hardest thing you have to worry about with that detachment is your Auspex Scan, because characters don't get protection from that because it's not technically the shooting phase. So if you bring your character in first, he can be Auspex Scanned. So you have to be careful on how you're going to drop. So do you drop a 5-man squad of Warp Talons, or do you drop a 10-man? I was playing a 10-man squad for my Adepticon list of 10-man Warp Talons. So that way you would give you a little bit of protection from an Auspex Scan, depending on what was going to Auspex Scan you.
2 10-man, because you can only Auspex Scan once.
Yeah.
You're gonna kill one, the other squad's still there.
And then, do you have it in front of you? If not, I could try and look it up real quick. What does a 10-man run you, roughly, points-wise?
190 points.
190.
190? So it's not bad, especially if you're turning off like killer shooting from a Hellblaster squad or something, because they're spending more than 190 on a full Hellblaster squad.
Yeah, and it's not just that. They also have, or Warp Talents have the demon keyword, so they can gain access to all of the locais, so the +1 strength, and also the spells in the demon book as well.
Nice.
Which makes them a little bit more either killing, tanky. I mean, you got all sorts of options you can go with. Khorne reroll charges. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with the 3d6 rerollable charge. I mean, that's what Bloodletter Bombs are.
Yeah.
So, especially when you only need a 5-inch charge and when you're casting all the powers on them.
Nice. And one more little stratagem I can touch on too is we have Come For You stratagem, a 1 CP strat that prevents people from running prevents a non-vehicle, non-titanic unit from falling back. So you could just trap your opponent in there and say, nope, sorry, you're not going to be falling back, which means now you can't get shot at.
So, question just came in from chat, and we were talking about it a little bit before the show went live. How would we deal with as a Demons or Chaos Space Marine player against Grey Knights? What's the tools that we have in our belt to fight that mortal wound kind of spam?
Right. So, what we were talking about is there's actually 2 ways to deal with it. The Contorted Epitome will soak up any smite spam in the game right now. They have a 2+ ignore mortal wounds, and you can summon them in with any Slaanesh character. And as long as you have a Slaanesh Demons detachment or a Demons detachment of any kind, honestly, you can use the stratagem for 3 CP to recycle that Contorted Epitome. So they won't kill it in their psychic phase, most likely, statistically. They'll kill it in the shooting. You spend 3 CP, drop her back down on your turn, and you got another turn of eating smites with her. And the other one that I've been working on, and in my opinion is probably better and cheaper, is Rhinos. 65 points, you got 10 wounds. Yeah, it'll take 5 smites to kill them, but when you got 5 Rhinos on the board, so they killed the delivery system, but everything there is still alive inside their little boxes.
Yeah, and even when you run multiple Rhinos next to each other, they pop a Rhino, the unit gets out behind the Rhino. Yeah, and then the smites still have to hit the other Rhinos.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what'll keep your possessed bombs alive too.
Cool. Any more to touch on, John? I know we kind of took a tangent on Night Lords.
Oh no, they're very underrated compared to Alpha Legion, Black Legion, your Thousand Sons. They don't get played a lot. I don't see them a lot in tournaments. I don't know if you guys have or not. There's also, you can do what's called like a leadership drop army, a leadership bomb army. So the unit of Chaos Raptors themselves have an inbuilt -1 to their leadership within 1 inch. You can mark those Nurgle and give them an icon of fear, which now makes it another -2. And then you get your Legion trait. So you can make a unit of Raptors could drop a person's leadership by 3. And then there's also in the host Raptor, there's the Terror Strike. When the unit is destroyed by a host Raptorial unit, subtract 1 from the leadership of enemy units rather than 6 of any host Raptorial units. So you could really, really drop somebody's leadership if that's what you want to. If that's what you're gonna build your list around, you really can do that with using using the Night Lords. But again, leadership sometimes doesn't really play too much in effect. If you're playing against guardsmen, usually you're killing all the guardsmen, so they're not going to pass the morale test anyways. If you're playing against somebody like Necrons, their leadership 10, so it's really hard, and they have small MSU units, so it's really hard. You're either killing them or it's really hard to get them to fail. So you have to and if you're playing against orcs, they usually have a war boss or somebody nearby to use leadership 30, and it's going to be really hard to drop leadership 30 or better on those guys. So it's kind of a gimmick, but it can be used for like MSUs, Marine squads that are hiding out somewhere, and you just want to like, hey, I want to kill 1 eliminator, but drop your leadership by 5, and now you have to roll that 1 to keep an eliminator squad alive.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
It plays really well with Slaanesh too. Slaanesh have a lot of leadership lowering, and then when you start playing the triple epitomes and saying, no, you can't run. I killed a model. Your leadership is 3 now. You can get -5 with Slaanesh. You're talking combine that with the -3 from Night Lords. Lead 10 immediately becomes only lead 2. So I'm gonna kill 1 dude. You're gonna lose a lot in leadership, and you're still locked in combat, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then when you want to run, you got to pass a 3d6 on lead 2. That's impossible.
Yeah. I think the Night Lords 2 would be a great tag team army if you teamed them up with Eldar, because I just happen to know a little bit about Eldar, but like they could have those the planes that have the negative leadership buff with the deflamers. So if you can give everybody a -5, -6 leadership buff, and then you just pick off 2 models from this unit, 2 models from that unit, smite another unit, and then just 5-man squads of Space Marines are running away because they're at -5, -6. That's
for only doing 1 wound.
Yeah. But that's a kind of a fringe team tournament play, you know?
Yeah. I mean, my Adepticon list was Black Legion mixed with Night Lords because I needed a way to get my possessed into melee, and if I could survive till turn 2 when all my Warp Talons and my Claw Lord would come up with the Claws of the Black Hunt, I'd at least be able to have another threat in their backline and negate some Overwatch.
Yeah. So, let's see. Do we have another cast? I don't think we have another cast Space Marine Legion. I think that's the last one. Oh, no. Sorry. I am wrong. World Eaters.
The
Gibbs.
World.
Kill us.
The Eater of Worlds. Let us know. You've played them for what now? 20 so years you were talking about it?
I believe I got into them at the beginning of 3rd edition. So we're talking 20 years. Yeah, I remember them when they were all their unopposed models back then, and they haven't gotten much better, in my opinion. No, they're a full combat-oriented army. I personally prefer combat armies over any kind of shooting. Yeah, I played my Eldar and with my scatter bikes and all that jazz, but from the beginning, it's always been assault based, and I mean that's why I play Slaanesh. That's why I play Khorne. I think it requires more thought process, requires a better mind of the game, as far as how to overcome obstacles and finagle things to work in your favor. Um, the corner, the world eaters specifically, are all berserker based. That's their whole fluff is they're all berserkers. Even their little cultists are berserkers. Um, they may not have the bloodlust that actual berserkers do, but that is what their mindset is for. Um, Key units for world eaters, obviously your demon princes, uh, berserkers. Berserkers give they get to fight twice, um, and fight 3 times for a 3-point CP strat, which is amazing.
And our troop choices.
And our troop choices, which is probably one of the killer things about them. Cult Marines and a cult list are troop choices. So when you're talking 8 dudes with the Icon of Wrath, which is reroll failed charges, Power Fist, and all of them have Chainsword Chain Axes for 146 points. And they have 4 attacks each, 5 on the champion on the charge, fight twice, fight 3 times. Not much can stand up to that. Even the knights will fall down pretty quickly.
They're a great army.
Yeah, I'm currently, I think that's what I'll be taking to the Michigan GT this year, is a corn-based army. More, I prefer to play a style that's competitive, but not the hyper competitiveness of the meta. And I prefer to do stuff that allows me to convert, paint, and build cool stuff. So I've got an idea in hand, and I'm hoping it'll work out. It's dealing with 2 possessed bombs, and I went into. I think a lot of when you're sitting with one cult, you have to include demons. I think it's the best way to handle it. They bring up a little bit of extra that the army lacks. So one of the main things that with legitimately almost no shooting in the army besides your bolt pistols, there's nothing really to take down screens, nothing to take down threats of your characters like eliminators. That's why I went into the Khorne demons and brought skull cannons. They ignore cover, D6 shots, strength 8. They're going to kill each one will kill a squad of eliminators, no problem. So it's just, it takes the focus off the characters and everything else running up the board. Like as far as like I was saying with the finesse of the army, it's all glass cannons. It's gonna hit, it's gonna kill, and then they're 9 times out of 10 they're gonna be left in the open. They do have some stratagems to deal with that. They have one of my favorite is when you go to consolidate a unit, instead of consolidating 3 inches, you can do 6. So when you start talking a squad of berserkers, piling in 3, consolidating 6, fighting, doing it again, and fighting a 3rd time, they already just moved 27 inches across the board and haven't even done anything. But besides kill everything in their path. So it's a good way to mitigate things fighting it back at you. So you walk up, you punch the unit, you kill the unit, you consolidate outside of another unit that you declared as a charge. They can't activate because they're not within an inch. You pile in again, kill that unit, and then do it a 3rd time. Yeah, I mean, you're a 140-point unit killing 500-600 points a turn is gross.
So let's just say, I'm not sure you have the stream open, Eric, but you have your I'm doing a little Mike Ditka here. You got your berserkers. They're gonna come in and they're gonna hit a unit right on its side, right? Or wherever you hit it. You're coming in from the front, you disembark from the rhino, you run up the front, you hit it. Then you're saying you got your 3-inch movement into the unit. If I could scribble. Yeah. And it's gonna be right behind the Soon logo. And then after that 3 inches, you're moving in another 3 inches, consolidating, and you want to try and get that movement to touch you into another unit, right? Or
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing basically is whatever you declare as a charge, you want to be able to kill it normally, or do so minimal damage that you can wrap the unit and stay in combat with it for the next turn. That way you're not getting shot at. So Berserkers or Khorne, only have really one way to lock units in combat, and that's Skarbrand. Skarbrand has an ability similar to the Contorted Epitome, where 3d6 leadership. If you fail, you stay locked in combat. Skarbrand also gives +1 attack to everything within 8 inches. That's friend or foe. And he makes everything fearless as well, which is pretty cool. So I know there's a lot of times when you have a combat army, you're dealing with a lot of leadership issues, and that's one way to mitigate it.
Do you prefer minimum units of Berserkers to like take in? Because I know a maximum unit is 20.
Max unit's 20.
Do you prefer the minimum units, or do you like take your big unit of 20 and use from the Apocalypse stratagem to give them a 9-inch free move?
So I've been toying with that recently. I think a 20-man blob behind the 40 possessed is silly. It's easily doable, but I think it's a bit much. And I think you're not going to get a lot of bang for your buck with that unit, just because there's only so much they can touch. And there's so many other units that you're playing with that are going to get there as well. My ideal, when I was doing Crunch and Hammer and all that, it was 7 is the ideal number in a Rhino. That'll kill 2 units in 1 round of combat, and the units being Primaris Marines. So that's the go-to thing right now. 1 round of combat, they'll kill all of them, pile in, kill the other squad, and then move again and tie up a third. And then they can still get hit back, lose 2 or 3, and you still have what we call tri-pointed in the model to stay locked in combat. I think anything more than that is overkill. For the Michigan GT, I'm running squads of 8, mainly because of fluff reasons.
Khorne's favorite number.
Khorne's favorite number is 8, so I was trying to stick with Legion numbers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's one of the cool stratagems is Red Butcher. I believe it's 2 CPs. It gives +1 strength to Terminators. You can do it for 1 squad, and that makes them count basically as Berserkers, so they get to fight twice. So that's amazing. And doing a 290-point Terminator squad, dropping in, shooting all their bolters, then charging in with their Power Fists, and 2 Power Fists, and the other 8 have chainsword or chain axes. You're talking they'll kill everything, and they're infantry as well, so they can do the fight 3 times. Yeah, strat, which is silly. And also, since they're slower and only move 5, they're ideal to use that 6-inch consolidation strat on as well, just to get their extra movement.
Are you feeling that World Eaters are you running triple battalions? Because, if you're spending 3 CPs for fight again a couple times, your Red Butchers, are you finding yourself CP short, or are you just running like a triple battalion? Because your possessed are like, if you're running 2 possessed, that's 347 points times 2.
Yeah, they're 350 each because they have the icons. I'm running 2 battalions, and then I'm running a spearhead out of the demons.
For your skull cannons?
Yeah, for the skull cannons and the herald with the crimson crown. The crown gives every 6 to wound is an additional attack. So for a chaos demon unit, and the possessed are chaos demons. So when you start doing your Dark Apostles litanies and Veterans of the Long War, you're getting +2 to wound. So now you're getting extra attacks on a 4+, mortal wounds still on 6s. It's just gross. I think I had the statistics of if possessed charge knights, you roll your average attack of 2 with your +2 attacks from being Khorne and hateful charge or hateful assault. So 4 possessed with 4 attacks will kill 1 Imperial Knight in 1 round of combat.
So
with all the bonus attacks you get.
Sorry, question just came in. What's the difference between a chain axe and a chainsword, and why take one over the other?
So chain swords give you +1 attack. Chain axes are +1 strength and -1 AP. So the best way to play berserkers is chain axe, chain sword, in my opinion. Like I said, I prefer all close combat. Pistols aren't really useful in that army. So you're going to end up swinging all your attacks into the chain axe, except for that one bonus attack you get with your chain sword.
Yeah, so just putting the 1 with the chain sword actually gives you 2, and then the rest are with the axe.
Yes. You'll get, is it 3 attacks? I think it's 3 attacks with the chain axe, and then 1 attack with the chain sword.
Yeah.
With the hateful assault and your charge bonus attack as well.
But they said that you don't get the World Leaders bonus on the second round. There's the hateful assault you don't get on the second round for your Blood for the Blood God.
So the way it works is those bonus attacks that you have are just bonus attacks. You can use them in any fight when you swing. So if you go in and you're going, oh look, I'm only fighting 5 guardsmen this round, I don't need that bonus attack. Swipe, kill them, pile in, and go, okay, now I need my bonus to kill that 30-man blob that just platooned up. Then I'm going to put in my hateful assault and the Blood for the Blood God attack. So you can store them for the fight phase that they charge, is basically the best way to say it.
Okay,
them immediately, but you only get the 2 extra attacks. 1 for the hateful assault, 1 for the Blood God.
Nice.
Okay.
And then for objective-based games, kind of like the Michigan GT is, a lot of the list that you've described so far is in your face, kill them, keep running through them, kill them. What's your backfield look like?
Cultists.
Gotcha.
All cultists. They're
Are you
40-point, 10-man squads that are just there to grab objectives.
Gotcha. Well, and conversely, we talked a lot about how strong the list is. If you were playing against this, what would you do to beat it? What are you afraid of?
So I rely heavily on my characters for the rerolling attacks, the Dark Apostles, litanies, the reroll wounds, the killing factors that demon princes have, the Crimson Crown. So basically, I'm really relying heavily on my characters, but I think that's the way any Khorne or any Chaos army really works, is they rely a lot on the characters for synergy. So killing characters is always a big deal. That's why I'm bringing the cannons to hopefully mitigate some of that. The Raven Guard are just absolutely gross for killing characters. Your standard meta right now, the orcs with their 18 shock attack guns is nasty.
But those really don't have to worry about those are only going to be worried against your rhinos, because they're not going to waste them on waste them on your infantry. So they're just going to try to
once the rhinos are done, they'll just shoot everything they can. But it's the issue is having to cut through the 180 to 240 models on top of that they have on the field before you can even deal with the cannons.
Yeah,
because I don't have anything long range besides 3 little skull cannons to deal with them, and the cannons aren't. They'll kill 3 a turn, but that's it. That's not enough to mitigate a whole lot. Horde armies, not too concerned up. Heavy shooting, always shooting is always an issue AP wise. Anything with high AP or even medium range AP, neg 1, neg 2 is detrimental to anything with a 3+ aid. So it all takes its effects. Psyker armies are a pain just because I have nothing in the army that deals with anti-psyker except for my 1 strat. I'm not running dogs. I'm not running Karnak. So that I don't have anything, and I can't take any psychers in with the marker Khorne, and that also includes the master possession, which he's kind of key to make possession really work. So I'm kind of hurting myself by taking Khorne possessed that way.
So a topic just came up, and it's a theme topic from the chat. If you had a display board and you want to make stuff on the display board move around, like motors and turrets and stuff, from a judge's perspective, is that taking away from the models, or can you do it tastefully? And if you can do it tastefully, how would you guys suggest doing that?
You can definitely do it tastefully. I've had several armies or several displays. I made one 3 years ago at Adepticon that had a 12-inch running waterfall. So it went down different layers, and you can have cool things like that. Yes, it might take away from the effect if you're going crazy with it, but I mean, you kind of got to know your limit. You know, I mean, it's just like anything else when you're dealing, say, even a coloring book. I mean, you got to kind of stay inside the lines a little bit. So it's I've definitely seen armies like that. There was one at Adepticon, it was 5 or 6 years ago, where it was a giant box, and the only way to see inside this box was a welder's mask. So you put your face in this welder's mask and hit a button, and all this light came on, and it was like the Game of Thrones intro, where all these things would intricately move up and spawn and then bring back down at the end. It was a huge story. So yeah, you can do cool things, but you have to integrate your models into what you're trying to do as well.
And even some like easy motion that I've seen people do, because you always are going to have issues. You don't know what your power supply is going to look like, because you don't know if you're going to have able to plug into stuff. Or I would also stay away from smoke machines. We've been bitten in the butt before that even if it's dry ice, judges will come over, or people from the like event center will come over and nip you in the butt that you can't have any kinds of smoke or dry ice.
Yeah, but it's the chemicals that they're worried about.
But interesting things, like I've seen people do turrets on top of old watches. Well, they'll wind the watch mechanics up, and they'll just mount the turret on top of one of the like second hands or minute hands, and the turret will just twitch in a circle. Super simple, around the pocket watch. Very easy to do. And you could pick up old watches, Salvation Army, super cheap.
So I also think too, like, you have to look at maybe the painting rubric for tournaments. If you're gonna is it how many points is having a better painted army versus your display board? So do you want to? I think people will have to okay, am I getting more points for more on my models, or am I getting more points for my super awesome display board?
Yeah,
that's why I shoot for both.
Yep.
And I normally look for the rubric, find the rubric, and base off the rubric. I've been going to Michigan GT since it started 6 years ago now, and I make sure to look at that and plan. The same thing with Adepticon. It's like you know what it's going to be, because it's almost always the same. It's just very minimal changes. And I mean, you go to your local tournaments, normally they don't even have painting count or scores. So that's the stuff you don't have to worry about. It's when you start going into big tournaments that you got to worry about all those extra points, because it's just like overall at the Michigan GT last year, I scored 19th in battle points, but my paint theme and soft scores and all that put me well above everybody else. So that's why I'm trying to do it again this year. I'm not going for anything too hyper competitive. I'm not running the Nurgle possessed or the Slanesh possessed bombs that are out there that are running the fields right now. And I know I can win with my paint and display board and my giant corn castle that I'm working on.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet too, because when you ride that meta you're like injecting the meta dragon, chasing that. Oftentimes when you're planning for a tournament that's months away, it's real hard to like you're setting yourself up for a GW nerf or an FAQ early to right before the tournament, and then you're scrambling because you don't have enough time to readjust everything.
Yeah, and in all honesty, when you get into that higher bracket of competition and those top tables, it sucks. Like, it's no longer, it takes the fun out of the game. You're sweating, you're typically arguing or micromanaging your opponent. you're not having a conversation about, hey, you want a beer? I'm focused strictly on the game, and that kind of sucks sometimes. It just takes the fun out of the game, and I'm more about saying, hey, I'd rather be not the top 10%, but I'll take 10 to 20%, and I'll play those guys because those guys are all fun too, and we're still playing a competitive game, but we can pause and chat and say, hey, how's your day going? What'd you play today?
And let's just
move on.
It's a bonus topic, but I love it and I want to touch on it just as the last thing that we talk about. How do you play competitively and not be a dick? What are some things you could do? Okay.
Smile. Eye contact. Just talk.
Offer your opponent a beverage. Always offer your opponent to get a drink, whether it be alcoholic or not.
Yep.
And shake their hand, or maybe not now, but fist bump maybe.
Remember their name. If you have issues with their name, text yourself their name. That way you know it. I mean, you got to be personable. That's the main thing. It's just, you see someone breaking the rules, call them out breaking the rules. But I mean, you just can't go, oh, I'm not sure that you moved that guy 6 inches exactly. I'm pretty sure you might have moved him a millimeter too much. So, I mean, it's just, you got to play the right way because people aren't out to. I don't think there are a lot of people out there that are trying to fudge the system. I will tell you, there are people out there to fudge the system.
I was going to say,
I have played them. I have been there, and those are the games at the top tables that I don't want to be at and play. Those are typically where those people are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just find it that you can make a great game even if both of you have lost all your models, and it's the best games I feel are come down to like 1 or 2 points, and it's like, or then you come back and when you talk to your opponent, you're like, oh man, if we would have did this could have swung this way, and that's I feel is like,
guys. Oh, sorry
about that. I feel that's the best thing to do is like you could just get like 1 or 2 things you could have done differently, and you talk about it with your opponent, and coming down to that last turn, you're like, oh man, this, the best games usually end up in a tie, or there's a 1 to 5 point difference between the games, But you can also know, like, okay, I'm playing like at the Polar Vortex last year. I played against a triple Iron Hands repulsor list, and I'm like, well, if I don't go first, I know how this game's going to go. And I did go first, and I knew how the game was going to go.
Yeah, in all honesty, I mean, with the years that I've played, I feel a lot of the games are won during deployment.
Yep.
It's not the movement phase. It is legitimately how models are placed on the table. That is the most important part of the game. And everything falls into place after that.
Yeah. Especially because if you deploy wrong, you're really setting yourself on the back foot to hope that your opponent messes up in order to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for today. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. I'd like to thank Frosty for throwing out so many subs. There's a ton of them. We had Yogi subbed, Bliznot you subbed, Frosty gifted like 7 of them. We had CJ Ains 210 with a follow, and 8.
What up, buddy?
Sorry, yeah, 8 subs. Oh, well, one last question. It just came in. Just saw it. Opinions on Imperial Fists. How strong are they right now? And with nerfs to Iron Hands, Imperial Fists, are they the new meta for Space Marines?
Yes, if you build your list around it, because you'll pretty much kill every vehicle. But if your opponent's not playing any vehicles, you kind of lose your super doctrine already right off the bat. So if you build your list to get their chapter tactics, they're really good. But if your opponent plays no vehicles, you're kind of like, you kind of like lost your super doctrine and what the Imperial Fists do best.
I don't think they're the new meta though. No. I don't think they're going to break the two, you being Iron Hands and Raven Guard. I think nothing is going to bat an eye against Raven Guard, even with their nerf with the Centurions and all that. That's what aggressors are for. I mean, we just haven't seen it yet because we've all been in isolation. So those are still going to be there. It's just not going to be as prevalent.
Although if you souped in like 3 Imperial Fist Thunderfire cannons, that would probably be a pretty good way to soup in something if you want to lose your doctrines.
Rogaldorn's great.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, any points, counterpoints? You've been kind of quiet this second half of the show.
Dude, he's been painting up a storm.
I know.
Rogaldorn's great, but we can take him. I'm not worried about him. I'm keeping it simple.
Nice.
Chaos has got this.
Nice. And what are you running, Matt, in tournaments nowadays? Are you still Chaos Knights?
Oh man, I've been loving Chaos Knights. I'm working on infantry forward stuff, learning some stuff from Eric and doing more melee units. So I'm getting some more Smash Cannons worked into an Alpha Legion list. They're just going to sneak up on people while being -1 and just eat them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks to my teammates, my crew. I couldn't pilot this without you guys. And thanks for everybody watching.
Thank you, Brandon, for being our tech master.
Oh, no problem. I barely held things together this time, so it was good. It's good. Hopefully we get better.
You are the glue that holds this show together on Saturdays.
So
you are the wind beneath my wings.
We now have the ability to run reruns, so we'll run reruns of past shows for the next couple hours, just in case you haven't seen them. Feel free to stick around. And if there's anything in particular you'd like to see, our YouTube channel, The Team Bad Decisions, houses all of our old content. And if there's anything interesting you want to reach out to us, teambaddecisions.com is our website. You could hit us up from there. Hope you guys stay safe out there in these times, and hope we can keep making some bad decisions. Peace.
Peace.
Later, guys.
Later.